What is the value of an idea? Can it lead you to hate someone with a bitterness like no other? Well, this was, and perhaps even is, the case with Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook. He's had his fair share of haters, but one story is the most compelling of all and deserves a mention here. There have been several classic rivalries in the history of inventions, but when it comes to a world-famous invention such as Facebook, everyone tuned in. Mark Zuckerberg is hailed as the genius behind this popular social media platform. But did you know that there were a lot of claims that Zuckerberg stole the idea of Facebook? I suppose this is a natural consequence of fame and success, but what if these claims do turn out to be true? Well, one such claim, which also led to the greatest rivalry with Zuckerberg, was made by Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss. The Winklevoss twins have had a spat with Zuckerberg because they claim that the latter stole their idea for Facebook. In an alternate universe, would the name behind Facebook be Winklevoss rather than Zuckerberg? Stay with me till the end if you want to know how the Winklevoss twins got embroiled in a hatred-filled rivalry with the founder of Facebook. The story goes all the way back to 2003. Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss studied at Harvard with Mark Zuckerberg back then. The duo was friends with the future social media mogul. They claimed that in 2003, they sought out Zuckerberg's help for their campus social media project. They wanted to create a platform that could serve as a campus directory as well, but instead of doing what Zuckerberg was assigned to do, he kept leading on the Winklevoss twins and started working on his project. Mark Zuckerberg was meant to be the developer for Winklevoss's social media network ConnectU, but instead, Facebook came to life. When the twins found out what had happened, they tried to sue Zuckerberg for stealing their idea. This series of events gave birth to the famous David Fincher movie, The Social Network, that covered this trial. But we never got to see the aftermath of the clash. Well, it turns out that the Winklevoss twins received a $65 million settlement from Zuckerberg. However, the twins additionally demanded settlement in the form of Facebook stock. They also ended up receiving this as part of the settlement, even though the lawyers tried to get their way. By the way, are you enjoying this video? Then give it a like and hit the subscribe button. It really helps me grow the channel and bring you the best content about investing. The Winklevoss twins came from a privileged and wealthy background, so for them, money didn't matter as much. During this legal battle, Facebook had already turned into a social media giant and was worth billions of dollars. The twins could predict, and rightfully so, that this was just the start of the success of Facebook and that so much more was to come. So their demand to get a settlement in the form of Facebook shares would turn out to be the biggest move on their part. Although they received a huge amount after the legal battle, this tarnished both of their reputations. They were seen as a joke in the entire industry and no one wanted to get into business with them. If this wasn't enough, the movie about this famous rivalry made them out to be privileged jocks and portrayed Zuckerberg in a positive light. People who saw the movie thought that Zuckerberg was this genius who was responsible for Facebook and that the Winklevoss twins were just spoiled brats trying to make some money. But the truth is tricky. We know that many social media platforms existed before Facebook, so it's highly unlikely that someone stole an idea. Social media platforms such as MySpace were popular, and no one was trying to sue Zuckerberg for stealing their idea of having a social media site. The thing about ideas is that we all have them, but not all of us can execute them. But the Winklevoss twins were able to prove their side and received a lot of money after winning their case. But they were caught in a kind of quicksand. What would you do if the entire world treated you like a loser, but you had over $500 million in your account? Anyone would guess that the Winklevoss twins would have spent the settlement money on buying sports cars and luxury mansions. But the twins wanted to prove their worth to the world. They went to Silicon Valley and began investing in startups that could be just as successful as Facebook. But there was a problem. Whenever the twins found a company that they really wanted to invest in, but despite making several good offers, they still kept getting turned down. When they tried to find the root of the problem, they found Zuckerberg behind it all. Back then, all the companies were interested in either partnering up with Facebook or selling their services to the media giant. Everyone in Silicon Valley knew that Zuckerberg would never choose a company if it had been associated with the Winklevoss twins in any way. Feeling disappointed and crushed, the twins flew to Ibiza to find some distraction. In a club, they met a guy named David Azar, who introduced them to a revolution called Bitcoin. Seems too much like a Hollywood flick, doesn't it? And you already kinda know where it's headed. This all happened back in 2012 and no one had heard of Bitcoin back then, so when David was proposing to the twins, they couldn't tell if it was serious or a joke. After all, they met him in a bar. But the twins, nonetheless, developed an interest in the idea of cryptocurrency. David asked them to invest in a company that would provide Bitcoin to anyone who wanted it. The Winklevoss brothers understood the importance of a durable currency such as Bitcoin and could see its potential. They did their research on the history of Bitcoin and soon realized that if more people were aware of it, it could turn into something huge. First, the twins invested heavily in the Bitcoin exchange company owned by Charlie Shrimp and became co-owners of the company. Soon after this, they started buying thousands of Bitcoin and eventually ended up owning about 1% of all Bitcoin. Back then, the price of Bitcoin wasn't that high, but the twins could only guess what was about to happen next. In 2013, the government of Cyprus was in debt and was forced to take out the money from their citizens. Naturally, people began to panic and wanted a decentralized currency that their government couldn't control. This is when the price of Bitcoin began to rise, and it kept increasing day by day. When Bitcoin gained popularity, so did the company. But unfortunately, due to the shutdown of the illegal black market Silk Road and Charlie's company BitInstant, there was nothing left to do. And this is when the twins decided to launch their cryptocurrency exchange website called Gemini. And we all know that Bitcoin has gotten so popular, and some would even say has become overvalued. The twins owned 1% of all Bitcoin, and this led them to become the first ever Bitcoin billionaires. From bitter rivals to Zuckerberg, haunted by his success and catcalled for winning a lawsuit after proving that Facebook was their idea originally, the Winklevoss twins were eventually able to make a name of their own. Privileged or not, it must have been a harrowing experience to be portrayed as the bad guy in someone else's success story. And what if they were indeed the original brains behind Facebook? The brothers finally redeemed themselves after they lost their reputation. They tried their best to be a part of the next big thing and have even predicted the demise of Facebook very recently. What do you think about the classic rivalry and hatred between Zuckerberg and Winklevoss twins? Would it be right to call one side fundamentally evil and the other righteous? Write lawsuit in the comment if you think that the Winklevoss brothers were right. If you learned something new from today's video, click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon to be the first to see my next video. I make deep dives like this every week where I uncover the secrets of money and business.